Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about the preterite tense of verbs that end in er and ier. So let's begin. The preterite tense of verbs that end in er and ier is exactly the same. So let's take a look at these two easy verbs, comer and vivir. So in the form of yo, it will be comí, viví, tú comiste, viviste, él, ella, usted comió, vivió, nosotros comimos, vivimos, ellos, ellas, ustedes comieron, vivieron. So the majority of verbs follow the pattern that we already saw. But let's take a look at another set of verbs, those that end in uir, such as, for example, construir, which means to build. These type of verbs have a spelling change in the form of él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes. And as a result, the pronunciation is also different. So if in the form of yo is construí, in the form of tú is construiste, then in the form of él, ella, and usted, it will be construyó. Now for nosotros will be construimos, but for ellos, ellas, and ustedes, it will be construyeron. So in the same category of a spelling change, we have the following verbs: caer, to fall, leer, to read, creer, to believe, and oír, to hear. So in the form of él, ella, and usted, it will be él cayó, but in the form of yo will be caí, caíste, so on and so forth. So if it's ella leyó, or for example, tú leíste. So, for example, ellos oyeron, but it will be nosotros oímos. So they follow the same spell change in the él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, and ustedes. So now let's take a look at the stem changing verbs, those that have the change from o to ue, from e to I, and from e to ie. So remember that verbs that end in aere, such as, for example, almorzar, and eere, such as, for example, perder, they do not have a stem change in the preterite. For example, yo perdí, or another example, tú almorzaste en la cafetería. Remember that that tú must have an accent because it's a subject pronoun. So now we're going to see what happens to verbs that have a stem change in the present but end in iere. So the verb pedir, to ask for, has a stem change from e to I. Well, in the preterite, it also has the same spelling change in the form of él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes. So if we say, for example, nosotros pedimos una pizza, notice that there is no spelling change, but ellos pidieron una Coca-Cola, there is a spelling change. The e changes to I. But what happens when a verb has a stem change from o to ue and from e to ie and ends in iere? So let's take a look at the verb dormir. So in the form of yo, it will be dormí, tú dormiste, but in the form of él, ella, and usted, it will be durmió. So notice that the o only has a half spelling change. We eliminate the e and leave the u. But then in nosotros goes back to dormimos, And it happens exactly the same thing in ellos, ellas, ustedes. It will be durmieron. So basically, the only changes happened in the él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes. So now let's take a look at a verb like preferir. Preferir has a stem change from e to ie. So in the form of yo, it will be preferí, tú preferiste, but in él, ella, and usted, it changes to prefirió. So basically, there is only half a spelling change. We eliminate the e and we only keep the i. So nosotros then goes back to preferimos, but then ellos, ellas, and ustedes follow the pattern of él, ella, usted, and the conjugation will be prefirieron. So in synthesis, verbs that end in IR but that have a stem change from O to UE and from E to IE only have a half stem change in the preterite, in the form of él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, and ustedes. So in summary, here are the topics that we cover in this video. First, in general, verbs that end in ER and IR have the same pattern of conjugation in the preterite. Second, verbs that have a stem change in the present and end in AR and ER do not have a stem change in the preterite. But third, verbs who have a stem change from O to UE and from E to IE, but that end in IR, only have half of a spelling change in the form of él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes. For example, the verb dormir, so it will be él durmió, or the verb preferir. For example, ellos o ellas prefirieron. And that's it for today.